There are free car washes. The Bonita Springs High School football team was doing a fundraiser, so I played a lot of football. So I went out to give them a donation. He got talking with the principal, Esty, and he says that the students have to put in community service time. He says 100 hours. I said, well, that's 2.5 weeks' work. So, wow, that's child labor law or something. But I said, well, gee whiz, I got some projects I'd like to get done. I haven't gotten them done. And I had made arrangements to get some projects done. And before that happened, the word got out, and Arlene so came and got me and said, well, you can't do that without doing this, that, and the other thing. I said, oh, okay. So I said, let's find out what we can do with these students to let them put some time in for their community so they can feel like they own part of the community. So I'm asking Arlene and staff to get together over the summer to work on what we can do, how we can use these students to improve Bonita and give them a feeling of ownership of the city of Bonita Springs. So that's why I put it on the agenda. We don't have to vote on it or anything, or you got direction?
No, I think, Mayor, what you're asking for is, if I understand correctly, so staff would have the ability to coordinate with the principal on activities that complemented other items that the city's doing, and that we have the proper paperwork in place. For example, if there's a volunteer waiver form that has to be signed, if they're participating in a cleanup, that they have the proper protective gear, whether that be the orange vests, that we have the proper supplies. And then typically when we have folks volunteer, especially for cleanups and such, we coordinate with EMS services so there's no injuries. But if you're looking for specific events where the volunteering would coordinate, or if you're asking staff, we'd also want to continue to invite them to the regular scheduled cleanups we have also, so they can participate in that. We do have a school form we keep at many of the city organized events where their volunteer hours can be documented and signed off by city staff.
Okay, I'd like to expand the usage of these students for their good and for the city's good. Is there any way we could have them do their volunteer work without having the city involved.
That's a decision of the principal and the school board. So if there's an
Yeah,
activity the
that's what-
school wanted to do within the city, you know, that would be upon their decision to do that. We wouldn't be involved in that. But
Right,
if you're
well,
asking for a city-sponsored event, typically staff is involved with that. We advise council whether it's an approved event that's within your budget, or it's an event brought before council to discuss to have, then we have criteria that we follow when we have volunteers involved on city projects.
Okay, well, I want to see as much flexibility as we can get into this program. So, thank you. You have direction? Need a vote?
I think what will more likely not is, Arlene, instead, we'll reach out to the school. The school board may require an agreement between the school and the city. So that may come back. Provided that doesn't come back, then they can volunteer under the city's existing volunteer program.
Okay, you got direction?
What we'll do is reach out to the principal, and we'll look at activities that the city is currently doing and ideas that might be beneficial to the students for their volunteer hours. And then we'll bring that back. If there's anything that requires approval, we'll make an agenda item for a vote.
Very good, thank you. Okay, art in public places. Nigel, you want to introduce this item, please?
I could. We still have a number of vacancies on the Art and Public Places Board, but we have a new executive director of the city of Bonita Springs. Most people know the Center for the Arts in Bonita Springs, and I believe our new executive director is out in the audience, so welcome officially to Bonita Springs. I think it's admirable that one of the first things she did was find a home in Bonita Springs and not somewhere else. She's made a point of meeting most of, I think, of council and city staff, and we have it in our not our charter, but our
In the ordinance that
Ordinance.
creates the Art and Public Places Board, it does
ask for a seat.
ask for a representative for the Center of the Arts to participate as a board member.
And we have not thanked her, but the past executive director served for, I believe, 16 years with me. So it's appropriate, so I'm asking that council appoint Ms. Osh to our board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do we want to discuss it?
Fight over it.
Stand up and introduce yourself. Hello.
Well, don't have to do that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Aliona Osh, and I want to thank you so much for such a warm welcome. I also want to thank you for this beautiful city that I'm part of now and all the work that you've done to make it so gorgeous. And very quickly, I just want to say that we have an amazing staff both at the city and at the center. And at the center, we're working very hard to make sure that we turn this beautiful city into a cultural capital of Southwest Florida and then beyond. And we'd love to work with the city to make all those dreams come true. So thank you so much. I'm so honored and humbled to be here.
Thank you for volunteering. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon. Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye. Service charge, BSU, get rid of those septic tanks. Motion to approve.
Second.
Shall I read the title into the record?
Yeah, go
It
ahead.
might help.
This is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, approving the petition of Bonita Springs Utilities Incorporated to special service charges for Sun Village Estates in the Lakes of San Souci subdivisions and providing for an effective date.
Any roll call, I guess?
I don't see any public, so.
No public comment on this?
You have a second?
Okay, I don't see any public here, so, yeah, roll call, please.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes. Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
No.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Okay, no through trucks. This is Thank you, John.
Actually, Mayor, we have one item before that, just a first reading.
Turtles.
The turtle.
Yeah, it was the sea turtle ordinance.
Yeah, no, just no through sea turtles.
No through sea turtles.
Give my-
This is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, repealing and replacing the Bonita Springs Land Development Code, Chapter 7, Article 2, Sea Turtles, providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, scrivener's errors, and modifications that may arise from consideration at public hearing and an effective date.
Okay, move to second reading.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Okay, Derek, you're on the no
All right,
through truck.
thank you. Mayor and council, this is the culmination of many public comments and discussions regarding no-through trucks. As you recall, we passed the ordinance last month. That's been finalized. So this resolution and the attached signage plan will result in no-through trucks being enforced between Dean and Terry Streets on Old 41.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have one question. How do you define a truck?
It's the same definition as truck as a state law, which is a vehicle designed to haul property. And although that sounds like a silly answer, that is the definition
You
for
mean a-
trucks in general.
A pick-em-up truck,
If it's being utilized for those purposes, yes.
F-150.
Its primary design is for transporting property.
Whatever. Well, it's the sheriff figuring that one out. Okay, very good. Roll call.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Okay, 14A, nomination of CDC.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We received correspondence from Commissioner Brian Hammond, and it is the City of Bonita Springs' turn to occupy a voting seat in the TDC. As you all, it's a rotational seat that comes along, and we have currently Councilmember Nigel Fullick is serving as the liaison. And so we would need direction to provide nominate an elected official to take that voting seat for us.
I'd like to nominate Nigel if he's willing.
I'm willing. Enjoy it.
Second.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Purdon.
Aye.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Councilmember Corey.
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes.
Aye.
Councilmember Bogas.
Aye.
Okay, hurricane recovery.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. At this time, Community Development has a brief update on our permitting activities that we wanted to make sure you're informed of.
Just a short 67 slides, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, right, sure.
So if you all remember, I brought this slide up before. Hopefully this time it's a little more legible. This was based upon our initial damage assessment of properties post Hurricane Ian, and it gives the number of properties that were destroyed, major damage, minor damage, and affected. So we look at this when we're looking at our remodel permits and our permits that based on Ian damage to kind of look to see where we are in the recovery. So when you look at what we've had turned in, this doesn't give absolute numbers, but it kind of gives you an idea of how these are working their way through, especially this yellow. As you can see, we've spiked, and then we've all kind of been working our way a little bit down. So I don't want to jinx this at this point, but I would say that we're probably about halfway through, give or take. We still have a long way to go, but I would imagine we're going to keep seeing this level of activity, both permits, phone calls, questions, those types of information that's going to go on for probably at least another 6 or 7 months before we start to really see a decrease. Once we get to about 80%, 70%, 80%, somewhere in between there of those numbers rehabilitated, that's when I think we're going to start to see a little bit of a decline in the permit activity. So these are the fees that we have waived associated with Ian. As you can see, it looked like February and March are really no surprise based upon season, but in terms of recovery, I think that's when a lot of checks came out, and that's when the bulk of our permits were going through, and it's almost $90,000 in a month that was waived. So we've been turning a lot of permits around for those rehabilitations. Phone calls, a lot of people like to pick up the phone, and so we're handling those as best we can. We have probably a much better handle on the phone calls now in terms of how we're processing them than we did before. Emails, this is really the killer, because emails could be anything from what's my property zoned, because I want to rebuild, to a list of 15 questions and public information requests. And so saying one email takes 5 minutes to address, it's impossible to say. One of them could take 2 seconds, another one could take 4 hours. And so as we work our way through these, we've been trying to tell people that if you email something into us and you're looking for a response, we're still about 2 weeks out before we get answers to most of the stuff. We try to get to the simple things as quickly as possible, but if you send an email to the general permitting line, general planning stuff, expect a couple weeks before it gets out, and that's just based on volume. So we're doing the best we can with those. Unfortunately, whatever comes in the door is whatever anybody sends. You can't really prepare for it. It just shows up. The number of people coming into the office has stayed relatively stable. We're down off the peak, and the peak for that was March. Not a surprise. Busiest month of the year, building permit-wise, every year. And that's about all I have. So I think we're starting, I'm not going to say turning a corner, but we're getting to probably the next phase of recovery. And so, yes, sir.
One question I had, John, do you have any sort of a feel for a count of people that are having to deal with the FEMA 50% rule and trying to figure out if they've got to elevate their existing structure or tear down and rebuild? I mean, is it a big problem in Bonita Springs?
Well, as she's walking up here, I'll just say it's not necessarily a problem. It's just something that we have to deal with anybody that's in a flood zone. So if your house was built and for some, at a later date, that flood zone was higher than your finished floor elevation, you now fall under that regulation. So in terms of the numbers, I'll let Aida, our floodplain coordinator.
Good evening, Council. Aida Lonergan, floodplain manager and building inspector for the record. We're not seeing an increase in as much as we were prepared for homes that are breaking the 50% rule, that are where we would then absolutely require that demo and rebuild or mitigation efforts. What we are seeing is a significant number of people electing to do that. We're receiving quite a few calls of, how can you work with me as the city to help me qualify for additional funding through their flood insurance that's already built in. Every FEMA-backed flood insurance policy, when it is your primary residence, has programs in place called increased cost of coverage. That allows a resident, when we issue a letter saying we've evaluated the numbers, you're breaking the 50% rule, it allows them to qualify for an additional $30,000 to offset bringing the building into compliance with current code. That can be done a number of ways, either by a retrofitting process, a demo rebuild, demo and take that money and build in another location outside of the flood zone. So we're actually seeing a higher number and quantity of people electing to bring their structures into compliance rather than a forced compliance.
Thank you.
Does that answer the question? Yes.
Question for you, John. The number of demo permits that we've had, I think I saw, what was it, 23 total buildings that were destroyed? First slide.
That was during the damage assessment. Yes.
Right, so 23. Which of those were, or how many of those were residences as opposed to commercial buildings?
I believe almost all of those were residences, but
So the demo number from the 23 came from our, the software we utilized from Lee County Emergency Management, our initial damage assessment. So the 23 was a rough and preliminary number. For example, it did not contain the 40 units on trailers on on Hickory Boulevard. So the number was preliminary. It was actually only represented as one, because while we're in the field doing the assessments, staff had no way of knowing that there were 40 units. So the 23 was primary single-family residence and not commercial structures. That number was for the destroyed buildings on completely washed away, because staff is always cautious on making a determination of calling something destroyed because of legal implications. We would mark something as major damage versus destroyed, allowing them the opportunity to hire their own engineers and evaluation and do the math before we would deem something destroyed.
So, and approximately how many demo permits have we issued? Approximately.
I would probably say an approximate number would be maybe 60 conservatively. 60. And you figure off the top of that 40 because what we did is the mobile homes that were completely washed away, to best protect those property for tax purposes, we went ahead and had demolition permits issued for those parcels so it could be properly recorded to the property appraiser and tax assessment. So conservative number, I know that we're looking at least at 60. I would say we would probably be closer to 80 or 90 at this time.
And just a comment, I've had 2 constituents and 1 general contractor tell me that they worked with you specifically, and I know 1 council person that did. You're a wealth of information, and what you do is very much appreciated, Aida.
Thank you, sir.
You too, John.
So, and just so you know, when you're asking these questions, most of the time when someone comes in the office, and they don't know what the rules are, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what opinion to have. So usually we just try to give them the information on what the rules and let them, the rules work for them and let them make their own decision. So when you start to see these permits or you start to see what are you looking at, really when people come in, it could just be a series of questions. They don't say what they're going to do until a couple weeks later after they've talked to an engineer and figured out what they like. So.
Yes, Fred.
Is there any way that you could rig up some kind of an email that would automatically go back to anybody that submits a permit, building permit by email? So we avoid this thing that they're in that 2 weeks before you get the.
So when permits are dropped off in the office, there is not that delay.
No, I know.
When they're emailed in or something like that, that's usually when you see that. But it depends on where they are or what they're trying to do. So sometimes email for them is the best option, even with a longer delay. They do receive electronic correspondence when the permits when we put it into the system, so they have a permit number, they know what was set up, and then we also send them their permit card so they know when to start calling in the inspections.
Mr. Mayor? Question?
Yes.
Are you still staggering hours?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, John.
So yeah, just what she's talking about is we have permit techs in the office that start, we try to get them there like 7:30 or so, and they work until 9. The permit counter opens at 9, stays open until 4, and from 4 to however long we can keep them there, they keep entering those permits that are dropped off just for Ian, just in the box, and people just drop it off and leave. So.
Thank you.
Yes, are you on deck there, manager?
Yes, I have some additional updates. I'd like Lisa to come forward. She is going to go over some of the federal and state loan programs for recovery that we're about ready to apply for. And then also she's going to give you just a brief highlight of the budget process coming up.
Oh man, don't worry about it. We got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're assisting all the time. Thank you very much, John. Good evening, Lisa Robertson, for the record. We would like to give you an update, excuse me, on our FEMA reimbursement process. First off, we do want to let you all know that our reimbursement process does continue. We brought a consultant on board, which we do consistently every time we have an event of this magnitude. And as we know, we talk regularly that we are still going through the process with IRMA. So it will be a long process, but our primary goal with the consultant is to get as much of the expenditures that are already expended reimbursed and completed. And it's a vast amount of documentation that the federal government requires, and they're here to help us do that. So we want to make sure y'all are aware of that. The staff is pursuing both federal and state loans. Those are designed specifically to provide operational funding. We've talked about those at several different meetings. Those types of programs, they're much more, the financial terms are much more advantageous to us. They're designed just for entities that are impacted by Ian, and some for Nicole as well. So wanted to highlight for you all, the first one is that we're pursuing is FEMA's Community Disaster Loan Program. That one has a 5-year term. Please note with both of these loans that we're talking about today, we have to qualify, and we're crunching the numbers from our audit, and we have to start our budget process. So we may, I don't want to give any false hope that we will qualify for sure, but we're going to try because it's based upon reductions in your revenue streams. You have to hit certain levels of reductions in order to qualify for these, but we are pursuing them. The one that's a 5-year term, we see that as more of a longer term in the event that we're heading into hurricane season. If we do have a cash flow need, this one will be available, and if we qualify, that would be fantastic. The local government emergency bridge loan, this is the one you've been reading about in the paper quite a bit. This one has a shorter term, 18 months term, and y'all may have heard me talk about that before because as fate would have it, that's how long it took us in Irma to get our debris money back. So I believe that's how that timeline is structured. We have with Ian, and thanks to the state, we did receive 50% of our debris already in advance. We're trying to get the second 50, which will help us with our cash flow. But again, if we could qualify for these, that one's interest-free. We did want to mention the community, and it's a mouthful, the Community Disaster Loan Program, the one that's through FEMA. That one with the 5-year term, it has a history of actually forgiving the loan if you get past a certain point, past the 5 years, and your revenue streams, basically in most cases your tax base, your real estate tax base, hasn't returned to pre-even levels. So that one is really good if we could qualify it. We're just trying to keep all those options open and move through the process.
You're just trying to borrow money.
Well, we're hoping we don't.
Trying to borrow money. Do we need to borrow money?
We're hoping we don't need to borrow money, sir. We are really hoping we don't.
So it is advantageous to pursue these opportunities so that we have them in place should the need be there. Any final loan documents comes back to the council for authorization.
Yeah.
But if we have a window of opportunity to apply for these opportunities, and that's why we're bringing them forward.
And you said interest-free?
The last 18-month one is interest-free. And the reason why we want to really try to apply for these, maybe we won't get them, and you know me, I hope we don't need them. But if we're heading into hurricane season again, and we all hope with all of our might that we won't need to use our reserves. We have a reserve set aside. We have our unassigned fund balance that we've been able to use for our disaster, which was great. We're in great shape with that. But if we have that already, and it is already out, a lot of it's been put out for Ian so far. So we were able to get 50% back. Long story short, we need all of our options open in the event we need some more cash for another storm.
I just read in the paper that property values in Bonita's up 7%.
Yes. Well, when I think we're all.
We don't know what's going to happen.
We do not, sir. That is exactly right. And what I was going to mention that on my next slide. We are in the middle of our real property assessment period by Florida statute. It's a very tight timeline. This year, for the first time ever, the tax collector issued June 1 number with a long list of reasons why we need to expect potentially a significant change in that number. They have been working diligently since the storm hit to try to properly value property that was significantly impacted by Ian. But they're still, at this point, they think there's a significant amount of, one line item was a significant amount of condos that have unreported damage. So the property appraiser has reason to believe they're uninhabitable and they should not be on the tax roll, but without proper reporting, they, and they can't go inside the unit. So long story short, they really have a difficult time this year. I mean, I feel for them so much because it's so hard to figure out what's happening inside the unit unless someone comes forward. Now, I did share this with the manager. We had a resident ask, they had gone on and applied for April for a refund for partial of last year, which is a great information for the property appraiser to have. That's somewhere for them to start. But they also, the property appraiser told us, they also want people to go on there and give the status of their property as of January 1, 2023. And a lot of people don't realize when we get our number in June, just now our estimate, and then we're going to get another one in July, that's actually based on January 1 of this year, 2023. So they have got a great website set up, the property appraiser, and they want you to go on and tell them that it's there. And you tell them if you think it's valued wrong. But I feel this year, and he sounds like the property appraiser believes it, we're gonna work through it together, and it's gonna change significantly as we move forward.
So we rely on the July numbers. So
Yes.
that's a preliminary estimate, but the actual number that we need is coming in July.
Yes, and it will continue to change. We start by Florida statutes, we start June 1 with just a preliminary estimate, and at this point, the property appraiser does not give any per parcel values. And in fact, that doesn't come out until August when you get your trim notice. So they are still working and changing. Our number will we'll get a preliminary number June 1, we'll get one July 1. Then the trim notice that comes out in August will have everybody's property value on it then. And we believe that people will still probably be coming forward then saying, this can't be right. So, but our preliminary number, we go change all the way to October 3rd or 4th. It's pretty much a good final number. But then there's also value adjustment boards. So people can go forward and challenge their individual parcel data even after that. So it's a fluid number. In most years, absent the hurricane, it's a real reliable number and it does not move very much. This year, we don't think that's going to be the case. I think I've spoken with everyone individually here about our proposed budget calendar with respect to our tentative budget hearings, What we're trying to do, as we do each year, is we try to provide you some budget information at each meeting. We've outlined them here. We're going to start Wednesday, your regular recurring meeting, July 19th, and give you a preliminary budget presentation. That will be a fully balanced budget. That's the first time you'll see that. And then the following meeting, August 2nd, that's when we're required by Florida statute to take your preliminary millage rate vote and your stormwater utility fee vote. That's, again, a regular recurring meeting. The next two recurring meetings are both on Wednesdays. We're going to give you budget updates as needed. As we move through our budget process, we get a lot of economic data. We get revenue estimates from the states. Other things will change, and we incorporate that as we move through the process. Our budget hearings will be, the first of which will be Tuesday, September 12th at 5:30. That is a tentative budget hearing, and it will include a millage rate vote and a budget vote. And then the next meeting, Wednesday, September 20th at 5:30, will be a final budget hearing, including millage rate vote. Now, your September 20th Wednesday meeting is usually a day meeting, so in order to comply with Florida statutes and to not have us meet any more than we need to, we're going to ask that y'all move that to an evening meeting so that we can have our budget hearing and then our regular city council meeting together.
Okay, on Wednesday, August 2nd, the stormwater utility fee vote, is that flexible every year?
No, we have to have that vote by law. We have to have both the millage rate vote at that time and the stormwater utility fee vote at that time as well, because both of those go on to the tax collector.
The stormwater utility vote, that's been a steady number since the beginning? Or
Yes.
do we change that every year?
Yes, but we have to, the procedures, every year by Florida law, just like the property appraiser has to do each parcel, we also have to give them a database and give them the data information each year. It's just part of Florida statutes. Sorry, it's repetitive, but a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my Hurricane Ian recovery updates. I just had a couple of quick announcements. We have had, as you're aware, we do need some property from Bonita Springs Utilities for the golf course project. So we've had an appraisal done for for that site. And so at this time, we just want to advise you that we are going to move forward with the appraisal work and title work. We've been in communication with the executive director of BSU. Any formal contract for the sale comes back to approval for council, but we want to make you aware that we're moving forward with the needed paperwork to do that. Additionally, the mayor did speak to staff regarding the agenda. Typically, staff initiates the organization of your agenda. Presentations and proclamations, there was actually, with a previous council, a vote to put presentations and proclamations after zoning. So the mayor has asked for me to request a conversation of this council. Would you like some flexibility for staff to make some decisions, whether it's a ceremonial proclamation or a shorter presentation to allow those to happen, especially the ones that we do with children and other activities, if you'd like that to occur before zoning? Any presentation that is longer in nature, update from consultants, part of this capital improvement project, would remain at the level it is, because that would take more time to address. And that would help prevent some of the changing in agenda that has to happen in a vote during the meeting.
I would like to
discretion
give
of council.
staff additional flexibility along those lines.
I'll second that.
Any objections?
I do.
What was it?
Discussion.
Yeah.
We had two separate meetings for zoning and council. Zoning, they bring in lawyers and traffic analysts and so forth. So they spend a lot of money bringing people in. And we decided, actually, because of other issues, that we would allow the meetings to be combined, but that zoning would always go first, so that these people who are coming and bringing, I think, wonderful projects to our community, or maybe not, we'll decide when they present, but zoning should go first. So either we have zoning first, and then all the ceremonial and presentations, or we go back to 2 different days. Because I don't believe that folks who are trying to make our city or enhance our city should pay more money to sit around well, one time it was the Turtles, and one time it was, I don't know, Boy Scouts. And I'm sorry, they're all wonderful things, but it comes down to practicality. We'll do 2 meetings, or zoning comes first at all meetings, is my perspective.
I'll make a motion that we give staff additional flexibility to arrange the agenda in terms of what they think is the best for the council to do.
You already have that motion already on the table.
And I seconded it.
I'd make one comment.
Any more comment?
Yes.
One, I think if we do go ahead and do this, that we, if at all possible, and we're going to do this, that they get notified a little bit ahead of time so they don't show up and have to wait. You won't always be able to do it, but you may be able to do it more often than you think.
What?
You're suggesting the applicants be notified?
Yeah,
that-
so that they
of the
don't
agenda.
come, say, we want you to come 15 minutes late or whatever. They may come on,
It makes no sense.
Well,
it does make sense.
I think
You're being courteous to
Yeah, one at a time now.
the recommendation, I believe, was to actually change the agenda when it's published, so the applicants would know that they got pushed back, unlike what we did this today, which was to move it at the beginning of the meeting. In those cases, they wouldn't have any notice. So the request is to be more consistent
I
with what
said
we
where
did today.
possible.
But that would be, okay.
Yes.
But today, Mr. Mayor, may I speak? Today, we had a senator and a state representative here. So it's a little bit different than, I don't know, honoring.
Can I call the question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Councilmember Carr,
No,
Mayor Steinmeier,
Aye.
Councilmember Corey,
Aye.
Councilmember Fullick,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Forbes, Councilmember Bogas,
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon.
Motion carries. Oh, I guess we got mayor and council member reports.
I'll start
You
if
wanna
you
speak?
want.
You go ahead.
Is that okay? I'd like to mention that our deputy mayor received a Home Rule Honors Award from the League of Cities. So congratulations, Fred, and for your advocacy for home rule, which is very important to our little community here. And this past week, Dolly Scott passed away. She ran Dolly's restaurant, and she looked beautiful in pink. So she looked really, I mean, I want to die looking that beautiful. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And then on Saturday, they had food trucks and open to the public a memorial for her. So it was lovely. And her son, who also, Randy, is going to continue. So Dolly's is going to remain open. And I think it's a wonderful establishment that is part of our history.
Anybody else want to comment?
I'd just like to remind council that the groundbreaking ceremony for the Big Carlos Bridge construction is 10 a.m. on Thursday, June 15th. And one of the interesting things as part of that construction is going to be the project will include a fishing pier, which I'm sort of going to look forward to and be able to take. I guess they're going to do it as part of the old bridge, turn part of the old bridge into a fishing pier. So anyway, I just want to remind people that that big project is going to be groundbreaking.
What time was that?
10
9 o'clock, 10 o'clock? or-
10 o'clock on Thursday, June 15th.
And what time?
10.
10
10
a.m.
o'clock, yes, sir. Okay, anybody else have comment?
I'm attending the TDC meeting tomorrow, so really nothing from the
Oh,
last
good.
meeting. I appreciate you bringing up Dolly. She was a good friend and a lovely part, important part of our
Yes, she
community.
was a
She
beautiful
really was.
person, that's for
Good
sure.
person.
Absolutely beautiful.
When you're up there at TDCC, find out how many hotel rooms we have in Bonita maybe, or, because that's where they get most of their money from. Because I know they don't collect them off of these condos very often.
The only hotel right now that is really still rehabbing is the Hyatt, and they're almost done, but our Bonita Beach corridor here, they're back online.
Oh, yeah.
So we're in good shape.
Yeah, there's, okay, thanks, congratulations on that. That's good for you. Fred, you got anything?
No, I've been attending these workshops in person that the task force is having at the working branch level. I'm sure Chris has been following some of
Well, I've been watching on Zoom.
Yeah,
so.
and they've been very good. In fact, I want to compliment Mike Figon and Nicole Perino because they were represented Bonita today at one of the meetings. They go an hour and a half, and actually, Bonita was the only one. It was they did a good job. A lot of good answers. It's all about appreciating cities, appreciating art and that kind of thing that helps bring tourists here. Actually, right now with the beaches being messed up, they said that was one of the bigger attractions. People coming for like art shows and things like that.
Very good. Jamie, you got anything for us?
I do not.
Jesse? Oh.
Ms. Smith?
I want to compliment everybody on the memorial service. Freedom is not free, and we have all new flags because the other flags were wiped out with the hurricane and the flood. So we have all new aisle of flags for all the people that past veterans that were. It was a nice ceremony, and look forward to the freedom that we have in this country. Not all countries have that. I was in 1970, I was in Germany, and they couldn't even talk about Hitler. They were so embarrassed by what the country did, they weren't even allowed to talk about the history of their country. That's scary. Thank you. Anything else?
And 4th of July is going to be great.
Yay!
We have public comment? Public
Oh,
comment?
yeah, public, yeah, she spent all
Jerry.
night here. Hey.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Mayor and city council members and the public and city staff. My name's Terry Lemaine. I'm the executive director of the Bonita Springs Assistance Office. And I just wanted to give an update as to the program that you are funding is extremely helpful, and we are very appreciative of that. Today, we had we didn't have over our actual figures, where 102 Venetians came for food insecurity. 102 Venetians between the hours of 1 p.m. and 3 p.m.
Can you give me a definition of a Venetian?
A Venetian? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. A definition of a Venetian is somebody that's not, no. I will have to say, I am experiencing red flags with this program, and the red flags that I am experiencing are, these people are not Venetians. I have given residents, so-called residents, that have come for programs and services at our 42-year-old social services agency, and I have told them that we are a crisis center. And you're going to have another crisis, gentleman or ma'am or woman, if you do not get a state-issued government ID, such as a driver's license. We have a very nice deputy in the room here, and I know Captain Blake Lee and Sheriff Carmine has a zero tolerance for no DL. No DL. We all know what that is, right? No driver's license.
You don't have to have a driver's license to have an ID, picture ID.
Absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
By this,
Yes, but what we are experiencing, and I want to let city staff, and I want to compliment Ellie and Teresa, because I am not compliant right now, because I cannot get through to our government program called E-Verify, and I will meet with Teresa Grimes and Ellie someday this week to see if I can get through, because my staff is E-Verified, or I would not have hired them. But getting back to your original statement as to Venetians, what is a Venetian? If you live here for 3 months, I want you to get a state government issued ID at our tax collector's office up there on US 41. Because I deal with crisis. In the past 20 years, I've been dealing and working and volunteering or being staffed at this agency. If this gentleman in the back room here pulls you over, you're 15 years old and you lived in Guatemala. If you're 15 years old and you live in my city, our city right now, you better damn well have a driver's license, because the rules are different in the city of Bonita Springs. So the red flags that we are experiencing are Romanians, Guatemalans, people driving company vehicles, coming to our agency, which is still a drive-through agency because we are serving multiple hundreds of people, households a week. I don't want to create another disaster. I don't want them to get pulled over for a no DL, because then they're going to have another financial disaster, because they're going to get a ticket and they might be incarcerated. I don't know. I don't work for LCSO. But all I know is I don't want to contribute to bad behavior in our city.
Yeah.
Thank you, God. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want city staff to know that we are very appreciative of the funding. However, we keep our pulse on our community from every district here represented, because we serve all of Bonita. And the red flags we were experiencing, we spearheaded it. And we worked with the tax collector and Janet Bartlett over at the tax collector's office, where you get your driver's license. And if you cannot afford it, we will help you get that. I just want to make sure that we are not contributing to more bad behavior, because I have May I please continue, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you, City Manager Arlene, because I know you've maybe gotten calls on this. I just can't let people drive on our roads when we have people that are tax-paying citizens and have driver's license. So if you're going to live in our city, get your state-issued government ID. So we are experiencing red flags on that. And I would also be very remiss to not let you know that while you are continuing to fund this program till the end of September of 2023, food resources are abundant in our city limit. We have 44 square miles, I don't know, give or take. Food is readily available. But if I may bring up my favorite history class, Paul Revere is ringing the bell, and y'all heard it before. Workforce housing. That's all I'm going to say. And the other thing I would like to give my city staff and my elected officials is to let you know that why we do have the pulse on the committee or the city, because we see hundreds of your residents every day and every week. Many of our seniors that own their home, they're not buying insurance this time. And I thought that was against the law. I'm talking homeowners insurance. I thought it was against the law, but I've learned, thanks to Councilman Nigel, who's always available for me with any real estate questions, these people are 72 years old. They didn't get the insurance industry failed them. So what my concern is, as a daughter of a meteorologist, it's not when, but if when another storm hits us, we have senior citizens in our city limits that they're not buying insurance. They don't want to buy homeowners insurance because nobody helped them. So sorry to go over my time limit. I love my city. I wish all the fathers in the room a very happy and blessed upcoming Father's Day holiday. And I can't say enough about Angel Cruz and code enforcement. The people that come into my agency, and Angel Cruz, bless that man. I don't know who his boss is, but code enforcement has really, we've all worked hard during these past 8+ months. But we have people saying, well, I'm going to put a trailer in my front yard, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make extra money. Mr. Angel Cruz, I wish to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the staff, for all the city staff members. As John Dolmer said, the call volume of people. I mean, people think we're FEMA. I'm not FEMA. I'm not even a government agency. So I could go on and on and on. I appreciate all my extended time. I appreciate all the love and passion and the guidance that everybody in this room has given our residents and my agency, and we're just starting now. We are just starting now. We're still giving away furniture and appliances and trying to, as Mr. Nigel Fullock has helped me, we're getting loan forbearances on people that work at the Ritz-Carlton, that live in our city, that are going back to work in July. They didn't even know what a loan forbearance is. So I could write a book about this hurricane like we all could. So I just wanted to thank city staff. I'm sorry I'm not compliant right now, but it's your national government that I cannot get my E-Verify clarified, and all my staff that are paid are E-Verified. So I will get with Teresa Grimes and Ellie, and Mr. Mayor, thank you again. Oh, if I can say one more thing, our Bonita Springs High School students, hurrah! I had 3 of them today volunteer 9 hours at our food pantry. So we are community driven, and our Bonita Springs High School students are very powerful, and they do help. So bravo to the future of Bonita Springs. Again, thank you for the extended time. Do you have any questions, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you so much for your service to the city of Bonita Springs.
It is my honor to serve our community in the position I'm in. Thank you very much. I really adore it. Thank you.
More public comment? I guess we're out of here, huh?
Yep, we're gone.
We're out of here. Thank you, folks.
I can't go. I'm not allowed. I don't know, somebody told me.
Have a nice night, drive safely.
Thank you, you too.
Isn't it raining?
She calls me, I give her information.
I know.
Like, just, these poor people are breaking the law. Couldn't they go to jail? No, it's America. You don't have to do anything in America.